What's up, Daddy Gang? Welcome back to another episode of Call Her Daddy. I've always wanted to say that. Welcome back to another episode of Call Her DBL. Call Her Digital Body Language. Okay, truth be told, I have recorded this a handful of times. I have outlined this a handful of times, and as I got to editing, I was like, it's just not hitting how I want it to, and I think that this tentpole is, one, quite vulnerable, quite confusing, and really important. So this might be a bit of a longer video. I have a bunch of note cards, but let's get ready to go. Welcome to Ambiguity as Power, one of the most powerful dynamics in digital communication. The place where nothing is happening, but something is clearly happening. You're not hearing from somebody, but they're watching your stories. Maybe they're liking a post or hearting a message instead of giving a response. Because in this gray zone, meaning is being created not through what is said, but what is withheld. And when something is withheld, humans step in to make meaning. Human beings are meaning makers. Okay, so what is the exact definition of ambiguous? Classically, about this word, there are many definitions, but pretty much they all boil down to ambiguity or ambiguous means something has multiple meanings. Life, gray zone. And this is complicated, right? Because everybody is an amalgamation of their bio-psycho-social experience. Shout out when I was a major in kinesiology and health equity for like 6 months in college, because I use that term all the time. But basically, it's the idea that we are a makeup, all of us individually, by all of our collected experiences in our life, both physically, socially, emotionally, all the different things. Sometimes ambiguity exists because someone doesn't want to be honest, and sometimes it exists because they don't even understand their feelings yet. But sometimes it exists because we're interpreting fragments instead of the full story. This brings me to the idea that I live by, that people can only get as intimate with you as they are with themselves. Most people are very uncomfortable by truth. And listen, America has a problem. America hasn't raised us to be chill with that. I'm a pretty direct individual, and I sort of speak in subtext. I feel like that was something fostered by being a theater kid, that I knew how to read a script, and so I could be like, okay, I have to decipher what they're actually trying to say. So I feel like I do that all the time in real life. And most people just live up here, and it's like they're not saying what they actually mean or want. That frustrates me and confuses me and sometimes gets me into messy situations. And I honor that truth is not always necessary, but I think living in your truth is necessary, because that then influences why we're ambiguous or too scared to stand on business.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
And most of the time, we aren't interpreting someone's true intention. We're interpreting how they're performing, what they think we want to hear, what they think they should be doing, what they're influenced by. No teacher taught you this. I don't even remember exactly learning stuff about body language, but I feel like we just did. So let me tell you a tale as old as time, but one of the experiences that definitely informed my understanding of digital communication. Frankly, a lot of my learning about digital body language and my desire to communicate about this has come from being a woman on the move, being a woman in the streets, being a human being dating. I was seeing somebody for a time period, and the relationship never clearly ended. We knew that we were looking for different things. I was, a little bit playing a game of intellectual dishonesty, but hey, he kept coming around and wanted to be there. So I was like, he's just lying to himself. Okay, lesson number 1. Whatever, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. It never had a clear ending, but one day I just didn't hear from him. We just didn't make plans. And at that point I was like, well, I'm not reaching out anymore. But I would still see his name pop up on my phone all the time, with story likes and with DMs. These were small signals that were suggesting presence without actual participation in my life. So the relationship wasn't happening, but it wasn't fully gone. Because it wasn't really clearly over, my brain kept trying to interpret those signals as meaning. Again, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. We now know that that is breadcrumbing and not honest, good, I want you in my life. But look, my guy friends don't like my stories. Other people don't like my stories. So I was like, okay, you're up in there. You're trying to signal. If I will write a book one day on the fuckboy rule book. Because if I were a fuckboy, I would hit you up at 11 p.m., have you come over, have sex with you, kick you the fuck out. I wouldn't ask about your family. I wouldn't text you during the day. I wouldn't ask how you are, call you, beep you, share values and intimacies. I wouldn't do that. Those are weird signals, mixed signals, whatever. They don't care. That's like how they get what they want. But now I've learned. Anywho, he would like stories that were like my family or my dad's art gallery or political things or art that I made, like more than just like, again, what I thought that if somebody just wanted me for sex, they would have just been liking me being like, you know, whatever. Lesson learned. As I was interpreting these signals, I tried to be the cool, chill girl, right? I didn't communicate directly like I normally would because, as I've learned now, my therapist always says this, human beings won't risk something that they're too scared to lose. So they let hope still exist, even if it's just breadcrumbs. So many people are living from a space of fear and discomfort with knowing the truth when I'm like, how about you actually reject me to my face and then I can learn how to love myself in the face of rejection. I can learn that I am safe and I am okay and I am the same Aubrey before, after you not picking me or not being clear with me. You know, all my friends were like, the silence is the answer. But frankly, I think that that is so embarrassing that we've allowed that to be the standard of communication. And that's the bare minimum. Like, no, how about I demand that you stand on business and be direct and say that shit with your chest? Yes. And okay, human beings won't risk what they're too scared to lose. So even the hope that someone cares about us can keep us from asking questions that might end something. And that ambiguity kept me in a place of suffering. Not fully in a relationship, but not free from it either. It was genuinely like he knew in the universe when I was pulling away. And look, you could say you could have removed him on Instagram, all these different things. I wasn't ready to do that. I was too scared to officially put this isn't happening. So eventually I got brave. Because I was like, what? I'm getting driven mad by all these story likes. And when I reached out again, he told me he was seeing someone and it was serious, but he sent in invisible ink. What? How unserious are you? How? First of all, sorry to this man's, sorry to that girl. If I were that girl, I would have been like, you should say, yeah, I'm in love and I have a girlfriend. Or like, hey, found someone else. I don't know. Just so shitty. And the invisible ink, boy, oh boy, oh boy. How about the fact that my mom and therapist could not conceptualize what that was? And I was like, it's when somebody has to tell you something, but they don't want to, but they know they should. Or it's flirty. Either way, it wasn't an appropriate use of invisible ink. Yeah, we'll circle back to the story. The internet didn't invent ambiguity. It just gave thousands of new ways to signal without saying anything. It removed friction, but increased the gray zone. Digital communication created signals that felt meaningful, but aren't explicit. Like, when he was liking my stories, he could have been, and I bet he was, getting his dick sucked by his new girlfriend, you know? Sorry to be crass, but that's just true. Like, you don't know the full picture of where, when, how someone's liking your stories. Some examples beyond story views are read receipts, delayed responses, hearting messages instead of replying. You know when you get in a texting rhythm with someone and you're back and forth, and someone just stops, and you're like, okay, what? And like oftentimes like life just happens, but if you have a different conditioning that like texting all day long is what creates meaning, then all of a sudden when that stops, you're very confused. I've had a dude who like, after we went on a few dates, slept together, then didn't hear from him, follows me on Instagram. Okay, what? Am I just in your Rolodex now? Like, that's fucked. All of these are little signals that I know can be seen as trivial and trite, but they matter. They are a form of communication. I had a friend tell me the other day that she has a strategy when someone posts, like a guy she's hooking up with, she'll wait a few days and then like it so that her notification comes separate from everyone else's. Oh, genius, like slay her. But like all of these things are signals, whether they're done intentionally or not. And while they aren't direct communication, they feel like communication. Back to this dude. There came a certain point when I was like, this is impacting me and how I'm posting stories and checking if somebody's viewing my stories. So I'm going to block him from seeing my stories. I was ready to do that. I blocked him from seeing my stories for like 6 or 7 months. But that even became something that I struggled with because I was like, I had control over that, over whether you're seeing it or whether you're not. And then I was like, no, I want him to choose. You can be here or you can't. I'm going to do my life. So I unblocked him. He saw, obviously I was curious the first couple times. He saw like my first 3 story posts, and since then he stopped seeing my stories completely, but still follows me. So immediately, my brain interpreted that as a signal. I know that often when someone mutes you, There's meaning behind that. But usually you can't tell, but because I had done this gameplay, I could tell. It's kind of wild that I know these micro signals of this digital world enough to decode something like that, but I did. That was me going, I mattered, like I was valuable. I fucked with your head a little bit. Like, I know that that's shitty, but I had gone so many months of being like, I'm so confused. Did I clearly mean nothing? No, clearly I did. So even if that interpretation is correct, which I know it is, it shows how much meaning we construct out of really small pieces of information. The internet gives us tiny signals and we turn them into entire narratives. Why does ambiguity hold power? Ambiguity transfers the work of meaning from the sender to the receiver. So when communication becomes ambiguous, the listener starts doing interpretive labor. They replay messages, they analyze tone, they analyze timing. Oh my God, we'll get into that on the dating episode, but like, I don't know about you, but I got some shtick, and I know my friends got a lot of shtick about like the time that someone responds, how long it takes them to respond. Was this always their pattern, or was this their pattern after they slept with them or got the date? Or now I know when someone messages me on Hinge at 2 a.m., you're not my guy. Ambiguity allows people to avoid accountability while retaining influence. Someone can still affect your emotions without committing to a position. And ambiguity allows people to participate in connection without taking responsibility for it. What that boy, because I'm calling him a boy because he was not a man stands on business, could have done, which I always would have respected, was if he said, hi, I'm not looking for anything with you. I don't think you're my person. I wish you well. Ta-ta. And unfollowed me. Or even followed me and just didn't like my story and disappeared. Instead, because he had a device that enabled him to half participate, because guess what? I think he did like me. I think we did have a connection. But for whatever reason, we weren't right for each other. And amen. The universe was blessing me, but at the time I didn't know that. But so he could still participate because he didn't have to fully make a decision and fully commit, versus if this was something happening in real life, which eventually he did. I understand that. I'm not trying to seem naive. He would have had to just opt in or opt out. Ambiguity creates a psychological loop. When something is unresolved, our brain keeps returning to it to try and complete the pattern. And this is why ambiguous communication can feel addictive, because the brain wants closure. Also, fun fact, the brain can't discern between fact and fiction. That's why like manifestation and people being like what you tell yourself matters, because it does. If you play something on loop and loop and loop, even if you practice conversation to all this different stuff, your brain could think that that's real. So your body, your neurons react like it's happening. So when I would get this hit, and because I was a meaning maker and be like, he wants me, he's still mine, I'm waiting, he's coming in a week. My brain was making meaning. When someone is ambiguous long enough, you stop asking what they meant and you start misreading everything, and the uncertainty slowly moves from the relationship to yourself. The device normalized breadcrumbing and just this low bar of care, low bar of entry, low bar of exit. We've talked about this before. Social media for women has simplified this dynamic into the phrase, if he wanted to, he would. I refer to this as TikTok feminism. But this applies to everybody. If they wanted to, they would. If any human wanted to, they would. And that's true because it shows someone with intention and prioritization that if somebody really wants you, they're not going to make you feel confused. I believe that. And people are more complicated than that. I often have spoken with friends about her. They're like, if he doesn't plan all the first 4 dates, like, I'm out. Wait, if you don't tell him that you're interested and like him, like, he's a human being too. He needs some validation to know to keep showing up. I try to practice what I preach, especially these days. Me getting pissed that all these men aren't standing on business. Now when I've gone on dates with dudes that like I'm not interested in, even if it was just one date, and if they hit me up or something, or even not if they hit me up, I'll try to be like, hey, I had a lovely time. I'm not your princess. You're going to find your princess. Cheers to you. What we put out in the world is what we get. The uncomfortable truth is that most of us have used ambiguity ourselves. People communicate ambiguously because of the fear of rejection, this idea of wanting to be chill or have the upper hand, avoiding uncomfortable conversations. And it's this idea that ambiguity protects us. People are so scared of feelings of discomfort and feelings of rejection, like I said. But the best way to grow and evolve is to learn how to feel okay in the ickiest of feelings and of rejection, because you got you. You know what I mean? I also think there's this huge rise of being the chill girl, protecting your peace. Don't say protect your peace to me again, ever. When communication becomes ambiguous, people start numbing themselves to signals. Instead of interpreting every message, because it's been exhausting. They shut down the whole system. And you're seeing this with cultural language like protect your peace, the normalizing of beta blockers and dissociating. Like, I don't think that that's cute. There's this big rise on like women being numb. I mean, even if you look at Ozempic, that's a whole different other conversation. Not allowing there to be fluctuation and change and not being perfect. And fluctuation and change is involved. Feelings are like the weather. They come and they go, and it's how you decide to attach to them. A larger conversation. We'll get there. I think it's incredibly sad and frankly very scary that these beta blockers and, just like turn off, just dissociate, protect your peace, just walk away. That's not honoring your true feelings. That's not self-respect. Feelings aren't something to mute. You're supposed to feel nervous before an audition. You're supposed to have butterflies before a date. You're supposed to be scared to tell somebody how you feel. That's the normal human experience. That's what makes us all good. To know lightness is to know darkness. If you died and had one day to come back to Earth and it might have been a kind of not the best day, I, for one, would still want to come back to experience. This is a gift. It's a gift to feel. Don't shut that off. Learn how to live with that. Discomfort is going to keep coming. Human beings are way too complicated to be leaving everything up to interpretation. Most communication historically included body language, tone, and larger context, but digital communication removed many of those signals, like I said with the dick sucking. That was context that I'm not seeing. In conclusion, I don't really have a conclusion about this one. You just can tell I've clearly lived it.
And you would do it too for a check.
I haven't been great at it, and I've tried to be a chill girl. You don't get a medal at 90 for having been chill. I just think that this is something we need to be talking about. Bring this conversation to the dinner table. Bring it on your next date. Talk about it with your friends. Direct communication is generous, and honesty is a gift. Whether somebody wants to admit that or not, when you are honest with somebody, you are giving them a beautiful gift so they don't have to suffer and they don't have to make meaning. Clarity is what allows real intimacy. Meaning is not being created through what is said, but what is withheld. And when something is withheld, we don't have the full story. I challenge you to be direct. It's uncomfortable, but it's a gift. Woo! That one was vulnerable. There's no way that dude watched this episode. There's no way. If he does see this, hi. I came out on the other side. Comment, like, subscribe, share. I'm really appreciative of you guys being here. #digital body language, #DBL.